Hey everybody, I'm back wrapping up Halloween movie review month with Broken Lizard's Club Dread. This coming after the success of the most popular film they made, Super Troopers. Club Dread is pretty much a slasher satire or a slasher spoof. And uh, of course, I think it has like more of a cult following. Certain critics, deem like a hit or miss type of thing, which end result in their point of view seems like a downgrade from the popularity of Super Troopers. But we'll see if that decision is warranted as I go over this. But it's directed by one of the lead actors, Jay Chandrasekhar. Sorry, I know I'm butchering the heck out of his name, but he's very funny. And of course, Broken Lizard is pretty much like a comedy troupe kind of situation, where most of the comedy group are in this movie. More recently, they were in this kind of show that they did, a couple of years back. Something about like a fire, like a fire station, as they are all firemen. I didn't see it. I know that was like a huge deal because I was, fascinated the fact that wow, I haven't seen you guys in a minute. Well, it's like it's funny, like y'all still acting and everything like that. That's pretty cool. But I guess kind of like with Adam Sandler and other actors like them, it's like you don't overextend. You very selective of what kind of material you get involved in. But they've been gone for a while now. But they fairly recently got back into the spotlight. But yeah, it's they made good films like Beer Fest and like of course Super Troopers 1 and 2. I don't think the second one did as well as the first one, but I think it still was okay. Really hasn't seen Super Troopers 2, I don't think. But yeah, but all the other films that they did, I only probably seen them aside from Super Troopers and Club Dread. I seen all the other ones maybe one time. I didn't see Super Troopers 2, but I know I've seen the first Super Troopers and Club Dread at least a few times between them. Because those are personally my favorite ones from them. But yeah, they had like Beer Fest, or didn't they have Oktoberfest or something like that? What films like oh yeah, okay. The first one they did was Paddle Cruiser. I didn't even know about that. All right, Paddle Cruiser, Super Troopers, Club Dread, The Dukes of Hazzard. They did that? Yeah, this is one with Johnny Knoxville and Sean William Scott. Didn't know there was a part of that. The Beer Fest, the Slammin' Salmon. They did a couple of stand-up specials. Super Troopers 2. Quasi, that was like last year. Didn't even know about that. I don't think that was promoted all that well. Tacoma FD, that's the TV show I was thinking about. They started 2019 up until 2023. Oh, wow. The Baby Makers, didn't know about that. Freeloaders. So yeah, they've been doing their thing for quite some time. So we had it stars Brittany Daniel as Jenny, the aerobics instructor, Kevin Heffernan as Lars Bronxhurst, a Buddhist pacifist and masseuse, Eric Stolhansky as Sam, the fun police, Steve Lemmy as Juan Castillo, the Nicaraguan staff member, Jay Chandrasekhar as Putman Livingston, Indian British staff members and tennis instructor, who is constantly getting like, the unnecessarily the piss taken out of him and being made fun of by some dopey idiot is just constantly just teasing this dude all throughout the freaking film. It's so freaking funny. Paul Suter as Dave, the DJ. The late Bill Paxton as Coconut Pete. MC Gainey as Hank, the Southern accent former director of FBI turned bodyguard to Coconut Pete. Lindsay Price as Yu, a Japanese American staff member and waitress. And Julio Becor as Carlos, the groundskeeper. Oh, and we also got what's her name? Jordan Ladd as Penelope, who took an interest with Juan, and he keeps, because of his accent, keeps mispronouncing her name and calling her Penelope. And when I first watched this as a kid, maybe in my, as I read it, because he had like a name tag, as I read it, it says Penelope, but the way he kept mispronouncing it as Penelope, and nobody bothered to correct him, I just, my brain just immediately like, okay, I just accept it. Like, that's not how you pronounce it. Penelope. But it was like a funny gag, running gag. Anyway, the movie starts with this, Coconut Pete hosting this cruise, leading all the way to this pleasure island. Essentially, it's pretty much like a spring break kind of situation where young 20-somethings are or slightly older are having fun, getting drunk, having sex, doing drugs, doing all these kind of crazy activities. It's just like having like a massive ball. And one at a time, we're introduced to each of these key players to this film. Now, of course, the film kind of starts off, in all actuality, these kids who's already on an island getting chased by this machete-wielding masked man. And the way it starts off is like really sets the tone to this entire film, where one of the girls like is about to get some help, but she gets stopped, and you get to see her POV where her head gets cut, and you see like it comes tumbling down, and she watches her body, and the credits the title of the film gets shoved in your face. So yeah, kind of like the way like the Scream movie really started off as. It's like, yeah, really kind of sets the tone of what you're in for. So everybody, like we meet all the key players, and little by little, we starting to see certain staff members, these kind of like extra, these pretty glorified extras that's going to get axed off little by little, until at one point where finally people are catching wise in one of the these little game activities where it's putting like a live action Pac-Man, where a guy's chasing down like these half naked girls, but of course staff members dress up in fruits, and one of them named Cliff dressed up as a pear as the killer is wearing the pineapple, and he cuts down Cliff and leaves a warning staff member, staff only sign on him. So Jenny and the others starts gathering these staff members, trying not to panic anybody, seeing the board with, the other extras, killed off on who's the staff member list of particular jobs they got to do on the island while they're there, all crossed out, leaving cryptic messages on the board, pretty much warning that do your jobs or die, or don't alert anybody, just do your jobs. So now they have to, while pretending everything's hunky-dory, while doing their jobs, they secretly are trying to come together and figure out, okay, who's the killer? Because I think it's the local legend, Machete Phil, who lost his mind and castrated himself and ran in the forest, never to be seen again, that's hunting them. Even though, Coconut Pete's telling like, yeah, hey, that's just a local legend. That's not what's going on here. But of course, typical in these kind of slasher films, everybody's pointing fingers of who could it be the killer. Juan is suspecting Penelope because she's got this secret that she wants to tell, and he's getting freaked out because now it's like they're suspecting everybody, and they can't warn the people there because, as Coconut Pete points out, we're gonna have 100 crazy maniacs running around this island. That's not gonna help anybody. So he brings in Hank, who is used to be an FBI agent, who can suss out who can possibly be the killer. And he points out that, which kind of contradicts what we saw from the maze, that he says like, oh, the killer, cut Cliff from it was in a particular way that signifies, oh, he's left-handed. But no, he held the blade in his right hand, so no, he would not be a left-handed killer. So it's like, that something I kind of pointed out to me. It's like, no, that didn't track. But I guess it ultimately doesn't matter. But it's just something that's like, well, no, the writers' room didn't keep that part straight. But there are some funny moments here because it's not just slasher. It's just like you get like these hilarious moments, like when later on when Juan is trying to pump Penelope for information while Jenny, Sam, and Dave hide in a closet, and it turns out she didn't have her dark secrets, that she was an Olympic gymnast that she doesn't want to be anymore, but she sneaks onto this party in order to get away from it all. And so he was so relieved. So they end up having sex right as all three of them just watching on. It was like, clearly a few sessions going on. They just have to just sit there and just so bored. That part always gets me. And then when she goes to the bathroom really quick, he goes to the he goes to the closet, like, I'm still not sure. I still got to maybe pump her some more information. James like, you're disgusting. Like, how would you feel if I was out there having sex while you sit here and watch? That could be. It's like, oh my god, that was like the comedy bits in here is really good. Sure, like maybe I don't know. I'm not sure like how much is like a like a joke that kind of carries over throughout time. Like we can watch this because this came out years ago, in 2004. So literally 20 years later. Matter of fact, back in February would have been like a 20-year anniversary for this film. But yeah, it's like these kind of jokes, they still hold water, man. So they decide, well, at least while Hank is trying to do some kind of a profile on everybody, you getting so freaked out, she decides she's gonna just warn everybody. Now, of course, you're wondering, like, why don't they just escape off the island? They saw that. I'm glad they made sure they covered their bases in this film, so that way, because that way nobody will question why they don't get off the island or do this or that. You see that they got real, somebody cut the lines to the boats, so they're kind of like drifted off at sea or sunk. They smashed the radios and and all forms of communications and payphones. Everything was smashed. There's no line of communication off this island to call for help. So they gotta do their duties until the entire event is over and a boat comes to pick everybody up, which happens in a few days. So they gotta stay here until then, do their jobs. Meanwhile, like, you is freaking out, and she doesn't think it's right of keeping this from people because we gotta like deal with this. So in her attempt to try to warn everybody, she ends up getting murdered right along with Hank, which there is some deleted scenes that was included in the DVD. Like, I'm pretty sure maybe one of them will explain why Hank just somehow got killed. Because he's, buried, his body's buried right along with you. So now it's like, okay, things are, and this affects Coconut Pete, a lot, because him and Frank have been good friends for a pretty long time. So now he's like coming unglued, and the others are taking notice. So, they all, like Putman and Lars, try to go off to, Putman suspects Lars because he's kind of like the newbie who has to step in when somebody else called off. So he was like a substitute. So they kind of just immediately suspect him. He's like a pacifist and whatnot. And he's like really good as masseuse. He knows particular, he says this BS rhetoric about the Masuo from ancient Tibet that said, "Go not, be well." That kind of like Eastern philosophy, fortune cookie BS thing, and it's such hogwash. But he does like certain moves where he can like make somebody orgasm and in a state of constant orgasm. He press a particular pressure point, and they cause them to like be in utter euphoria, so they won't be kind of neutralize the threat kind of situation, which is a total, like they BSing a lot through this. But of course, Putman doesn't believe him. They go out to try to find like any, potential items that they can use that they can get off the island. Something like a boat or something that might have been seen further down off the coast. But they're also doing this to see, like, okay, if one of them is a killer, then, we know who exactly. But that won't work because, like, the killer won't make that freaking obvious. I was like, well, I can't kill him. If it was one of them, which it isn't, Pupman has some kind of... Oh, before I get further into it, as they trying to make a campfire to rest a bit, as Lars is trying to give him this, you know, hippy dippy kind of line of dialogue. I love this retort from Putman. It's like, piss off! That got that from my bloody Hogmark card. So, like, crack me up. It's like, yeah, he caught on to your crap. Even though he's a little butthurt because he's into Jenny, but she's feeling Lars more so. And she totally friends on him. Just the look. And she, before Lars and Putman head out to search for a stray boat, she plants a kiss on Lars. And then she, you know, as Putman's, you know, expecting like a kiss, she, you know, friends on him so fast in 0.2 seconds, pulls out like her hand and give him a handshake, like, good luck, Putman. And he just like his, like, just the quick sadness just washes over his face in just the utter instant. That was so freaking funny. Oh man, I remember watching this from a lot, you know, in like, you know, classrooms in middle school, because it was like when you have like movie day or something like that, or a pizza party. God, remember those? I was just watching the movies, and like I remember watching this a couple of times in middle school. That was freaking funny, man. But Putman ends up having a nightmare running off, which leads everybody suspecting Lars, especially after they find he really keeps a shrine like of Coconut Pete in his in his, you know, some secret compartment in his cabin. It's very like Helga from Hey Arnold kind of situation. But they end up like locking him up under suspicion. But then they end up finding Coconut Pete's body. So, and then of course Lars somehow escaped because he knows his mantra that kind of sucks in his guts so we can allow him to slip through the bars. Yes, I know, BS. He sees this, and then things escalate. But then it's like, okay, we got only till tomorrow, but we gotta warn the guests. We can't keep this going. So, but they all end up splitting off. But then, as they trying to cool, you know, like he's trying to relax at least a little bit. The kid that was keep messing with Putman throughout this entire film tries to hit on Jenny in the pool, where the killer shows up, throws a television inside, kills the kid with Jenny just making out in time, goes to find Lars. They run into her room. They, you know, try to hide underneath the bed, but it turns out the killer is actually it turns out, you know, the person that come in they thought was the killer isn't a killer, is Putman, and the killer is like, you know, standing outside not too long after Putman shows up. But unfortunately, Putman can't get away because Jenny handcuffs his leg to the bed, and they don't have the keys to let him loose, so Putman sacrifices himself to allow them to hide, because I don't think, you know, the killer saw them. So he tries to distract them by, like, you know, using his tennis racket and any tennis balls he has to kind of distract him. But he ends up getting killed. So now they go to warn the guests because they can't deal this with anymore. They're going to be picked off one by one well before the boat arrives. But unfortunately, the guests are all the wiser now, while the previous killed people are displayed in the party, freaking out everybody. Oh, DJ Dave gets killed because, you know, as he like, you know, creepily lets people know like the island's already mine. He goes run away to his own hut. Well, because after they discovered that Coconut Pete is dead, he's found out that after other people checking, you know, the other staff members' cabins, they found out that Dave is Coconut Pete's nephew. Um, don't know how they kept that a secret, but uh, turns out he left the island to Dave so he can get back on the road and start touring again. So now he's dead, and now everybody's freaking out on his place. All the rest of the staff members, who's left, goes find that Sam's like bodies in one of the mud baths, but it turns out he's not dead. He's the killer. He got the machete up to Lars's throat and has two weird confessions as to why he did what he did. At first, he was like, I was like, I asked Dave for some grass. Or at least, no, the three people that was killed earlier in the film, the men says like, who was going off along with the two hotties, is like, I asked him for some grass, and he said he didn't have none. I found out he had grass, and he was smoking it with those two little hussies. That's why. No, wait, no, that's not why I did it. It wasn't about the grass, even though that was extremely uncool. The second one, that guy that really got me. It's like all these years, man. That is just a funny little like exposition. At least fake out exposition. That was really good. But then he really explains as to why he did what he did, because he wanted the deed to the island, but was upset the fact that Coconut Pete left it in the hands of Dave, who was, idiot stoner that couldn't really like manage his way out of a paper bag. So that kind of caused him to kind of snap, and he figured like, oh well, I got you to do your job, so that's pretty good managerial skills, don't you think? I got you to waste time trying to solve the little riddles, from those songs and stuff like that. So Lars managed to, use a pinch to allow him to get like total euphoria, allowing the others to make their escape. But with Juan, Jenny, and Penelope, or Penelope, they go to make their way to a cliff where they each Lars couldn't hold on to him. He's made his escape, but Sam managed to catch up with Penelope. He tries to drown her, but Lars comes up, knocks him away, stabs him, but it doesn't last long. Gives them enough time for them to run to the cliff so they can dive off into the water, where they end up finding a sunken boat, where they cobble some stuff together, or at least get some stuff to cobble together with a boat that's on the water so they can make their getaway. Sam jumps in the water, kills Juan while he's, helping the others on the boat. But thanks to the teamwork of everybody, they managed to hogtie Sam up against the dock, and is going around in a circle, pretty much bisecting him. But his top half still want to fight back, and breaking his pacifist rules, Lars tosses his upper body into the water to allow it to sink. And they ride into the sunset while Sam's lower body is still swimming after him. Kind of end on a funny note. Yeah, and that was pretty much Broken Lizards Club Dread. Kind of, went through pretty quickly, but this is like a very short, I don't want to say short, but it's like a, very one-to-one kind of story. It's just it tells a decent story. It's not like overly complicated. Nice little mystery. And it's like a decent slasher film that deserves more accolades than I think it got early on when it came out. But it's like a fun slasher film, and it's like this kind of like this and like this first Scream movie. It's like if you want to ease a young kid into the slasher stuff, they're like the proper films to ease them into it before they get to a little bit more of the hardcore stuff. Because I don't know. I think those Saw movies are just more torture porn than anything else. But something like the Nightmare on Elm Street and or the Friday the 13th kind of films or Candyman, those things are a little bit advanced type of horror slasher films that you definitely need to be like a well into your adulthood to, or at least you gotta be super into horror in order to handle that kind of stuff. But that's kind of advanced slashers. But yeah, this is pretty benign of a slasher that is not too crazy. But is very engaging. The characters are charming, hilarious. The chemistry is great. Everybody did their part perfectly. I wish it done better in most horror films don't do so hot in the box office. It all depends, but it slightly underperformed at the box office because at the time it had like a budget of $8.6 million and it came out $1 million less in the box office, which is a shame because this is actually a very enjoyable film. But like I said, it's probably had like a cult following over the years, and people look back on this film with high regards. And it's one of my favorite Broken Lizard films, honestly, because like I put it up there with something like Super Troopers and Beer Fest. But yeah, that was Broken Lizard's Club Dread. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, because this is like a fun film. This is really fun, and I guess it falls under the category of stoner flicks. I guess I'm not a stoner, but I still have a hell of a time with this. It's fun revisiting this film. It's really fun. But let me know what you guys think. That is the end of the movies for October this year. The the horror theme. That way, I can get started on November Thanksgiving movie month that I'm going to be start doing. Where it's like either family type of oriented film, like centers around family, or food. That's gonna be type of theme I'm gonna be sticking to in these. Like I started last year in Thanksgiving, at least the Thanksgiving month. So I'm gonna continue on. I started making a decent list. So look forward to some good stuff this November. Anyway, I will see you guys a little bit later because hopefully around this time, I'm gonna wait before I start playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel with my vampire deck because I haven't gotten back to Master Duel in a minute. But I want to try out my vampire deck. But before I hop on, I'm going to wait until I watch the last 2 episodes of Agatha All Along, which should be airing the final 2 episodes of season 1 in the next hour at the latest. Once I go through that, I will come back, give my overall thoughts on the entire season. Then I will hop on to play some games. Anyway, I'll see y'all soon. Take care.